Aren't you going to start the video? Alright, they warned me about this. Say hello, Tennis. Hello, Tennis! Hello, Tennis. Hello, Tennis. Hello, 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 hello. Tennis! Yes, I am Tennis the Menace Murphy, with Murphing the movies, and today we're going to talk about King Kong. But first of all, before we get to that, I suppose we should do the important thing, which is the sponsorship announcement. Hey, this is Kentucky, and oh hell, I'm going around again. Well, I guess that's kind of appropriate because you see, we're advertising laser discs, and laser discs also they like to spin around, so that kind of makes it appropriate for me to be going around and around like this. And oh hell, you can see my butt. That's no good. Oh. Well, there's nothing wrong with my butt, but you know. Anyway, hey, so yeah, you go to our sponsors at Home for the LD Lee. They sell Laserdiscs, HD DVDs, and CDs, all things that spin round, of course. And yeah, I'll be putting the code MURPH, which is in Murphy, like it's written on my vest. Let's see if I can just time this so that. Like it is there. We'll probably put up a graphic as well, and don't stare at my butt, please. And hang on, coming around, and yeah. So Home for the LD Lee, they sell Laserdiscs, HD DVDs, and CDs, and they're the kings of Laserdiscs. Yeah. Whee! So as I'm sure you're mostly aware, there's been several movies in the King Kong franchise, and we're not going to just go through them and review them. We're going to sort of talk about the ongoing continuity and the general characterization of Kong. Given we are gorillas, I thought it would be a nice thing to sort of give you a gorilla's eye view of who King Kong is and what he means to us as gorillas. And so the first film came out in 1933, just called King Kong, black and white film, and for its time it was certainly a very exciting film, very ahead of its time when it comes to effects. And yes, I'd say it's a good film. I would probably give this one yes, good film, and yeah, like I said, very influential. No need to really go through the plot because you've probably seen it. If you haven't, you've probably seen one of the remakes, and it is somewhat similar. So yes, moving along. So that was followed by Son of Kong. That film was fine for what it was. You could tell it was kind of a cash grab sort of thing. Similar sort of effects, but still, yes, I thought it was lacking something. We're just going to quickly give that one. And then it was all sort of quiet on the Kong front for a while. There was the Japanese movies, which we're not really going to talk about here because they're kind of a different continuity. But the first one was King Kong vs. Godzilla. And this is probably more of a comedy movie in a lot of ways. It's certainly a lot more tongue-in-cheek than the original King Kong. But then the next sort of proper King Kong movie was the 1976 remake. And it kind of follows the same plot as the original. Personally, I actually think it's a better film. I know a lot of people will disagree there. But I just feel that it's... I don't know, I think the problem with the original for us gorillas is that they did make Kong a monster, and I guess he's still supposed to be a monster in this one too, but he's less monstrous, I guess. They don't sort of play that side of him up so much. He's more gorilla-y, if that makes sense. We're going to give this one... And this was followed in 1986 with King Kong Lives. And for us gorillas, this is probably one of the best films that they've done in the series, just because that it is, well, it's not really what you'd expect. Certainly looking at the trailer, you'd sort of think of it being more of an action monster movie, but really it's kind of a romantic comedy, where you look at they bring Kong back to life with a new artificial heart, and they find a lady Kong, then they have a baby. And yeah, there's a lot of this film is taken up by Kong and Lady Kong just kind of doing the sort of things that you'd see in a romantic comedy. So I think that it's a very different film, and it's very enjoyable for us gorillas. I believe it's kind of controversial with humans, but yes, we're going to give this one. But while it certainly was popular with us gorillas, there were a few sort of other cartoons and animated films, various other projects involving Kong. Nothing really happened again until 2005 with Peter Jackson's King Kong. Now, Peter Jackson's King Kong, I'll say this for it, the gorilla in it, it's Kong, is probably the most realistic that they've ever had. But plot-wise, it is basically the original film with about an hour's worth of additional material, most of which is not really worth bothering with. Peter Jackson's King Kong, I feel that if you were to see it at the cinema, if you arrived just as the film started, you've still got time to go to the toilet for a crap and go to the concession store. Obviously, you need to wash your hands in between those two things. And yes, so probably about half an hour to an hour into it, and you really haven't missed much. Once it does take off, though, it is a beautiful film with lots of lovely scenes of Kong. And yes, the ice skating scene in New York, I think, is a highlight of the film for me. But otherwise, it's basically the same film, just really, really long. After that, we went to Kong Skull Island, which is it takes place in the 70s, so I suppose that it's just before King Kong Lives, if you want to go in that story, or it's suggesting that maybe Kong survived the 2005 film and went back to Skull Island. That doesn't really make sense. I suppose it could. They could work around it. But my personal opinion on the canonical order that you would watch these films in, as far as the new films go, I would say that it would probably be, you'd go Kong Skull Island is just before King Kong 76. That obviously leads on to King Kong Lives. And I try not to put spoilers in these reviews, but this film is, nearly 40 years old now. So, and you kind of know the story of King Kong by this point, I'd imagine. But in the film King Kong Lives, he does die at the end. You know, he's got a heart transplant, and then he gets attacked, and all these sorts of things happen. So, but there is a positive ending with that. Whereas I always thought that the ending was tragic and it is tragic, and it's still tragic in King Kong Lives. But because he meets Lady Kong, they have a baby Kong. So I personally think of the new films. So Godzilla vs. Kong and Godzilla X Kong, A New Empire. I think that is Kong Jr. from King Kong Lives. At least that makes sense to me. I believe there's another Kong movie coming out in a couple of years' time, another Godzilla and Kong one. I really enjoyed all of them, to be honest. Skull Island I thought was it was just okay. We'd probably give that one... but Godzilla vs. Kong, I would give... And if you're a fan of the New Zealand film Hunt for the Wilder People, it's got the kid from that. And if you're a fan of Stranger Things, it's got 11 from that. So it's So I would say that Godzilla vs. Kong is basically a Kong movie mixed with a Godzilla movie, mixed with Stranger Things, mixed with Hunt for the Wilder People. It's kind of all of those things combined and more, and people kind of write it off as a stupid monster movie. But I just think it's very sweet, and it's a lot of fun. It's a good adventure movie. Good comedy, family adventure movie. Fun for the whole family. As for Godzilla X Kong, A New Empire, I would say that it is almost as good. It does miss out on some of the comedic elements that... I would say that it does lack something, because it loses 11 from Stranger Things, or the actress, obviously, is not the same character, Millie Bobby Brown, and the kid from Hunt for the Wilder People, Julian Dennison. They're not in it. I think their conspiracy theorist friend was, but yes, the sort of the threesome I thought really were not threesome, because two of them are children, but not children, but teenagers, so that would still be inappropriate. But the point is that it's the three of them, and they're kind of like a comedy group within the film. So they're not in the later one. So because of that, it loses something. Is what the point I've been trying to get, without trying to say something inappropriate. So we're going to give Godzilla X Kong A New Empire. Yes, it's a lot of fun, and it sort of continues the same mood, really. I just think it misses that one element. Well, three element, or two element of. I'm getting too wordy with this, but you know what I mean. As for the depiction of gorillas, obviously we don't eat people, we don't eat meat for a start, so that kind of messes up a lot of what happens in all of the movies. The chest beating thing is something I need to bring up, because chest beating in King Kong movies, they usually do it with a closed fist. That's not normally how it works with gorillas. It's normally with an open-handed. So, because otherwise the sound doesn't travel as far. The idea is that you're sort of making a cup with your hand, and sort of then beating on your chest. Oddly, the one film that does get this right is the '60s Japanese King Kong versus Godzilla film. Although this could just be that the guy in the costume couldn't bend the gloves. So we're not sure, but they actually got it right, so I guess they get a point for that. Anyway, I've been Tennis the Menace, along with my sister Dush, who's been doing the Murph burps today, and obviously Kentucky for doing the sponsorship announcement. I am Tennis the Menace, and this is Murphing the Movies. Oh, don't forget Home for the Elderly. We have a website too. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, all those lovely things. And hello, tennis. Hello, tennis. Hello, 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 tennis.